Did you start? I keep starting these videos this way. Okay, so today you're gonna work with a little bit more with your 10 frame that we've been working with. This is day 3 of 10 frames. We're gonna put them away after this, but they are always gonna be good tools for you to use, and you are always welcome to use them. Just the next couple lessons, I'm not gonna be like, hey, pull out your 10 frame. I might tell you to pull out those 10 frames, but you get to choose if you wanna use the tool or not. So for today's lesson, we're gonna look at, I'm sorry, you're gonna need this page out of this book, your homework book, for when you do it. You're gonna need page number 67. It has an orange duck at the bottom and looks like this. And you are going to need a pencil, or you can use a crayon. If you're good at writing numbers with crayons, you are more than welcome to use that, or use pencil. Crayons look really colorful, and we don't mind seeing color in our teaching job. But yeah, that's it for this part. Okay, so I have some really, really good news. Today, we're gonna use 10 frames, but we're gonna put them in weird spots. So this is kind of like what you've been doing for your entire life when you wanna count things without a 10 frame. So I just introduced this 10 frame thing, and now I'm gonna show you how to use it based on what you already know. So let's say a teacher such as myself comes up to you, as we are wont to do, and says, here's random things. Can you count these random things? And you're like, okay, Mr. McCardle, I'm gonna count these random things, right? So you would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12, 75, 36, right? You just count them random willy-nilly. You'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 things. I moved them, I counted them, there's 5 things. I'm going to show you how to do that if I gave you a 10 frame that you know has 10 boxes in it, and what it might look like if we put our stuff in random boxes, and how we might be able to move that around and think about numbers and make them into easy to count packages, okay? So I've got a couple of problems for you to look at. So let me set them up. Don't look! I mean, keep recording, but don't look. Okay, so I'm gonna set them up. I'll make a little humming noise for you, and I'm singing a Don't Look song. Don't look song while I'm setting it up for you. Don't look at the thing that I'm setting up for you. La 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 la. Okay, it's set up. You can look now. Whoa! I put the 10 frame down. I put some stuff on it. I'm gonna ask you how many things are there. So what you can do for a 10 frame that is set up not in a specific spot, like we didn't make any columns, we just kind of put them down all willy-nilly, kind of like we would if we made a little pile of things and said count. So we can look at this thing and we can certainly count this thing. So the way it's set up, I like to start down here. And some of you might already have an estimate as to what this is. An estimate is just a guess based on looking at it real quick. And some of you almost certainly just started counting it right away. None of those things, I don't have any problem with any of those things. So let's go ahead and count them. Let's find out how many are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 things here. I counted them, so I know that there are 8 things here. But there's another way to do it. It makes it a little bit easier. But we'll look at a couple more, and we'll just practice counting them first, and then I'll show you the easy way. So I'm going to do another setup right now. Go ahead and look at my room, spin around a little bit. I'll do my humming setting up song. I'm setting up things, and I'm setting them up so you can look at things. But I don't have them set up yet, so I'm setting them up, and I'm humming a song. And I'm making you sing along to my setting up song. Keep still setting up, so don't look at me. Okay, look at me. Ta-da! I've got another one for you to look at. Okay, so I put some stuff down here. Right away, we know that this is less than 10. We know it's less than 10 because this is a 10 frame and there's an empty space on here. So we know that it's less than 10. It's not up to 10 already. We can count them to figure out how many there are, or we can think about how many there are if we're filling it up, right? So I'm going to count them just to make sure. But I'm going to think about this. There's only one space here, so we're missing one number to get to 10. So what might be the number right before 10? That's probably what this is, but I'm going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, space, 9. I have 9 things here. But Mr. McCardle is a giving person. If you have your 10 frame and it makes it a little bit easier for you, I'm going to show you the trick right now. I have this guy floating up here, but there's nothing that says he needs to live in this box. He just needs to live in a box. So what I can do with this counter is I can move him down here. And having them in these nice rows, for Mr. McCardle at least, helps me count them. It makes it easier for me to see how many we're missing, because there's not a little space right here. So if I put him over here, he's still in a box, he's still got a home, but it might be easier for me to count because I won't have to be like space in the middle of it. So I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I counted them, I still have 9, and it doesn't matter that I moved it to help me count them a little bit easier. It's just how I do it to make it easier for my brain. So I've got one more to set up, and then I'm going to show you that. And then I'll kind of turn you guys loose to kind of practice this on your own. So I'm going to set it up. I'll do my little song. It won't take me very long to set this up. So this is a faster version of the set up song, and I'm singing it faster than I was on the other song. I'm singing it super fast because it's super fast to set it up, and now it's set up. See? It's already set up. Now these are the number, we have a number on here. I kind of put them all over the place. We got a bunch of big empty spaces. So if I was gonna count them, I'd have to be like space, 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 1, 2, 3, space, 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 4. That's a lot of spaces to get mixed up on. So I've got this. I can count these circles for sure. I can count all the spaces for sure. I can tell you right now that this is definitely less than 10 because there is not a filled up 10 frame right here. There are definitely spaces that mean it is less than 10. But because I do have my actual counters here, my things that I can move, and my 10 frame here, I can take this guy and I can just move it down here and make a group. And this group right here is super easy to just stare at and be like, I know what that number is. I don't even have to count it because I've seen this number in this arrangement so many times. I can count it to check, but I just look at it and I know that is 4. It's a lot easier to see than this one right here is 4. So I just take it and I move it down there. It's still got a space. It's still in a space. It's still in a home. They aren't 2 in 1 space, so it's still fitting the rules. But this number looks like 4 to me. I've seen 4 in dots. I've played with dice a couple times. I've played Yahtzee. I know what 4 looks like. I played Dungeons and Dragons, and I know what a 4 looks like on a dice. So for this particular one, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 dots. So what you're going to do is you're going to kind of mess around with some 10 frames that are all set up all willy-nilly. They're going to be all over the place like that. They're not going to look like nice, neat little groups on your work. But you're going to count them and you're going to try to figure out what that number is trying to show us on our 10 frame. And it's going to continue to build our knowledge of being able to make nice, neat little groups of 10. 10 is such an important number in our number system because it makes things so much easier to move around and mess around with numbers. You can play with numbers like a puzzle, and 10 is kind of like the key to the puzzles. All right, so for our work today, you have got to pull out your page number 67. Go ahead and keep out your 10 frame. Go ahead and keep out your little counters just so you can kind of move some stuff around. It's really fun to be able to move around the numbers. You won't be able to do it on your page, but you can do it on your 10 frame, okay? So your first trick for this one at least is going to be make your 10 frame that you have look like this puzzle right here, okay? So you're going to do, I've set it up so it's the same way. So let's look at this letter A right here, okay? I'm going to take my counters and I'm going to put them exactly on there, exactly like what I have here. And what you're supposed to do is count these and write the number underneath. But what I want you to play with today and have fun with is being able to move these things in the 10 frame. Because you can count this pretty easy. This isn't a whole bunch to count. It's not a lot of spaces to get tripped up on. You can count 1, 2, 3 things. But what I want you to know is in these 10 frames, you can move some of these around to make them easier to count. So I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to make sure he just finds another home, but I'm going to make sure he finds a home next to the other ones. I'm going to move him all the way down. That way there's not all these spaces in between like there were on the original picture. I'm going to move it down here so I can count real easy. 1, 2, 3. Okay? And then I'm going to think about what does the number 3 look like. Number 3 looks like that. So on your homework here today, you're going to have to write down a number 3 right there on that space. There's 3 in that box. And then I want you to set up this one. This one's going to be a little bit trickier. So you got to set up these exactly the same. And I want you to look at what you set up. And I want you to look at your boxes a couple times. Be like, okay, is that the same? Did I put them all in the right boxes? Did I put these in the right boxes? I did. And you can count them and write down the number, but then I want you to try fiddling around with these and moving them around so they're easier to count. Right now there's these spaces in between that makes it harder to count. But if you take this guy right here and move him down to there, you can take this guy and move it to there. As long as they're still in a box, you're still staying to the rules, then you can count them a little bit easier because they're all close together. And once you get them close together, they're a little bit easier to count. I still have the same amount of dots here as this picture. I just moved them into different homes. And that makes it easier for me to count, and it might make it easier for you to count too. So I want you to practice that skill while you're playing around with these. Count them, write the number, move them around, see if they're easier to count that way. That's your work for today. Have fun with it. Get a little silly. Don't add any new ones. Just make sure that you're just moving around the ones you have. But other than that, work around with that 10 frame. Like I said, it's a great tool. And have fun.